What's happening won't be seen tonight, so we can bring you a very special episode of The Gen X Files. Welcome to The Gen X Files. I'm Jim.
I'm Adam.
And today's show is a very special episode.
It's a little bit more personal, a little bit more cultural.
A little bit more adult. It's for the stepdad.
Throw your keys in the bowl.
Yeah, no, I mean,
have a drink.
We just wanted to do something a little more relaxed, a little bit more, mostly we talk about stuff that we really enjoy watching and, really positive stuff. And there's some interesting stuff that happened, to our generation that, isn't as light, but it's, still going to have fun. We're not going to sit here and talk about, the Munich Olympics.
Oh, God.
The hostage crisis.
100 days, 100 and some days? Was that what it was? Anyway. But, around hostage crisis.
So we're not talking about it. No.
Well, this is the time to talk about it, man.
But the reason why for the stepdads is the 70s was a really interesting time because I had a stepdad in the 70s,
I didn't have a stepdad in the 70s.
My father passed away when I was young, and my mom remarried. That's how you get a stepdad. I just want to make sure everybody knew the process. You didn't just
organically grow out of the ground?
You don't plant a stepdad tree. I wish. That would be cool. But, and we're enjoying a stepdad drink. It's a J&B and soda, which is a very 70s stepdad beverage.
I'm already, like a good stepdad, I'm already like 5 in.
God, no wonder they were so angry. Drinking this rocket fuel.
It's really not good.
No, and it's not cheap either, which is cool.
J&B is the official whiskey of the British monarchy since like 1719 or something.
No wonder they're so uptight. It's also the official whiskey of Stepdads from 1971.
Yeah.
But it's a blend. So grab your drinks and sit back, and we're going to have a little talk about the 70s and some of the weird kind of cultural changes that we went through and why. And I think a lot of it had to do with the dissolution of marriage. Divorce was not common. And I think, after Kennedy got killed, and then after that, we had the sexual revolution, and then after that we had Nixon, resigning.
Nixon. That whole scandal was a huge,
We used to
America
blindly follow your government.
As a middle-aged white man, I'll say that.
But it needed to. All of the stuff was just phony. Everything was surface. You look at a lot of our parents, or parents of the Gen X generation,
the baby boomers.
Yeah. Look, a lot of what they were concerned about was surface. Our family needs to look good. We have to appear. The whole, what are the neighbors going to think? Once we got to the 70s and all of those things happened, and the culmination of a lot of them, I think a lot of people woke up, and a lot of women woke up because, this was also during ERA and the Women's Liberation Movement. And they're like, I don't want to be married to this schlub. I don't want to be married to this idiot anymore.
Well, and there was legislation that passed that made divorce a lot easier.
And life's too short, And
no-fault divorce.
Right. And churches were getting kind of lax on it too, so there was just this divorce revolution, I had a lot of friends with stepdads, and I guess stepmoms too, but it's just like I don't have the clear memory of the stepmoms like I do the stepdads, because the stepdads came in a lot of the same.
But that's because mostly the kids stayed with the moms,
right?
The kids were with the moms 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, so then you got all these dads that are getting kicked to the curb, or these husbands. And you got all these horny moms that are, looking to mingle.
Why would they?
And then, boom, you got a new dad. And it's like, it was tough. It was an interesting situation. With us, well, my voice is getting really high.
Yeah, I can see that. You went back to being 10 years old.
I did. No, I think I was 4. But I remember when our stepdad situation it was kind of messed up because I was going on picnics and stuff with them, and I was a young kid, so I just wanted a dad, I just wanted a big guy.
You were very wounded by the fact that your father died.
I was looking for some sort of male, guidance or whatever, and they sent my sister to camp, and, when she came back, he was moved in, and it's like,
wow,
that's not good, for her. It's like,
Yeah, I can't imagine.
and that's the beginning. And it's not like they did it maliciously to hurt her or whatever, but I think that's a lot of the problem is like they didn't think about it because it's like the kids don't matter back then. I mean, not that they don't matter, but they don't have a say. We weren't, it wasn't a family vote about stuff.
Yeah.
That's just not how it was back then.
Well, that's because father knows best. It's about being sold that you need to have that family unit, and the parents always know better.
Yeah, I just also, it's also got to be tough coming into a family with kids, and the whole discipline. Like, back then it was just like, he's in, discipline going, the whole, you're not my dad, that didn't fly. It's like.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough for him coming in to, have to fill those shoes or yeah, I mean, even that, it's just that the fact that it's like, all right, I got to.
And I think we were his first stepkids. He had a whole gaggle of his own kids from other marriages. But
gaggle is not a word you want to use.
But
children.
I think we might have been his first stepkids, and then he also ended up adopting us. But it was a whole different dynamic, right? And so we rebelled. We got in trouble because we weren't happy. You know what I mean?
Sure.
The kids were acting out. The parents didn't give a crap because they just wanted to get drunk and do what they. Not my parents, but I'm being in general. It's like there was this whole kind of not a breakdown of the familial unit, but a reimagining of it, which came with its own roadblocks and its own difficult situations.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of stepdads, and I don't know about your stepdad and having other kids, but a lot of them don't have kids, and suddenly you have a 7-year-old, and it's like, well, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, I'm in love with this person, and now, but the kid's there, and it's like, well, how do I deal with this? And
a lot of spanking and
handle
beating.
It well. Yeah,
that's what it was. There was a lot of
well.
abuse back in the 70s because it was actually,
I feel like there's a lot of overcorrection that was going on.
Yeah, but also, I mean, spanking and smacking around, that wasn't really frowned upon back then. Yeah, in my school, they had a paddle. Like, the principal could paddle your ass with this big-ass paddle.
When I was in Catholic school, we had a paddle, but that was...
This was public school.
Yeah, not in public school. Oh, no.
And that was another thing. I had to become a Catholic because he was a Catholic.
Oh, really?
And I got shoved into that nonsense.
Oh,
yeah.
I was my Catholic upbringing with the Catholic school that I went to. I was they taught us phonics. Like, that was the big thing. And how
were you hooked on it?
I was, because I learned to read at a very young age, and I have better comprehension now because of the phonics stuff.
Sure.
And it wasn't something they were doing in the public school. But the second my parents asked me if I wanted to go to public school, I was like, Yeah.
I mean, I was an altar boy. I was a lectern. I was,
Oh, I was an altar boy. I was never a lectern.
Oh man, I loved reading in church. But
you have an audience. That's
exactly.
It's a captive
I
audience.
Care what give me whatever. I'll read it as long as I can make. Do
all
my little jokes
on me.
Do my voices.
Hi, I'm Peter. Welcome to the pearly gates.
I'm going to tell you a quick aside. This is one of my favorite stories about my stepdad.
All right.
And when I used to read in church, we used to, I guess it was like we were doing a rehearsal for some big mass. It was like it was one of the big ones, Easter, Christmas, one of the biggies. And I was reading, and I hadn't seen the scripture or the reading. I don't know. I don't even remember what you call it. But it was a dry read, okay? Yeah, I was 8 or 7. I was really young when I would read in church. And I remember Sister Ann, who was the meanest, just most physically and mentally abusive nun I have ever encountered. The most unhappy person. Unhappy person.
Yeah.
So Sister Ann was this horrible person. And I get up on the altar. There's a bunch of people in there. The old man's there. And she hands me this card, and it's it's scripture, so it's like Ecclesiastes and all these $10 words, and you're so I'm kind of stumbling through it because it's a dry read, and I'm young, and I make a couple mistakes, and I'm nervous because there's other people, and it's the first time I've ever done it, and she's hovering over me like a carrion bird waiting for me to and then she just lays into me. You sin in the eyes of God, and how dare you take the... And just screeching at me. And I'm just like, God, don't cry. My face is in a thing where your face is getting super hot, and you can feel the tears going, but you're just like, I don't want to give her the satisfaction, but you just are just so embarrassed. And it was just horrifying. And she's just like, go sit your butt down, and think about what you blah, blah, blah. So I go head down, just like, it was the longest walk, too, back to the pew.
Yeah.
Everybody's eyes on me, just, that hot, embarrassed feeling of where you just want to crawl into a hole. And I sit down next to the old man, and he's pissed. And he leans down to me, and he goes, "You don't worry about it. She's a bitch." This was in church, and he was absolutely right, and I loved him for that. That was like one of the...
That's amazing.
Yeah, so
That's
amazing. We had our good, look, I think the old man loved me, the best way that he could.
Sure.
And I think the one good thing about our generation that I don't think the generation, that definitely he didn't have, because I know that a lot of his problems stem from, he didn't have a father. His father died when he was young.
Oh, really?
He was a forestry guy, and he was killed working. And he was raised by a very overbearing and cruel mother and an extremely cruel and abusive sister.
Oh, wow.
And he was a miserable man, and he didn't know how to deal with that.
Right.
And he didn't have the skills to deal with that. Like, they didn't go to therapy back then or introspection or whatever. He wanted to be John Wayne,
Yeah.
You repress it, you drink it away, and you beat it out of your kids.
No, because it's not how you're supposed to be.
Exactly. So, understanding where he came from, then he's not a monster. He's just a man.
Yeah.
And then you can be friends with a man. You can forgive a man,
Right.
And I think, that's one of the greatest things about our generation is I think we have empathy, and we did forgive our parents. You know what I mean? I think we could see them as human beings and not as, and I think that once you start seeing your folks as a human being, or your stepdad, whatever it is, then they're not the monsters. Then you take the power away, and then you can understand where all this crap came from. And it doesn't excuse it. Doesn't make it okay.
No. It doesn't always,
and it doesn't make all the residual effects go away.
Yeah.
You can forgive, but, it's like you can't forget, It's just, it's in you, especially if you're a kid, there's just things that are in you that you can, you can be aware of them, and you can control them, you can watch them and stuff, but they're always going to be there. But I think, I see my peers who are parents, and they're much better parents,
Right.
No offense to our parents, but it's just in terms of like accepting who the kids are, being supportive of what the kids do, not just like shut up and do what your dad says, or you know. It's, I think each generation's getting better, right?
Yeah.
And I think everybody complains about the millennials and and the kids today and whatever, and it's like they're always going to be different. They're always going to be a little weird, but
there's no reason.
But these are sweet kids. I think these kids are going to do a good job. And I think they have good parents. And I think we kind of went through the ringer to get to where we are today, right? I think we kind of went through the shit.
I mean, I think there's still a long way to go with a lot of people, but
of course, definitely.
But definitely, I mean, I think I was pretty lucky. My parents were pretty good about that. They were very much about being supportive and like allowing me to screw up and then being supportive there, and it was good. I mean, it made me very independent, and it made me very aware of who I am, and in the fact that my brother has amazing kids, and like between him and my sister-in-law, and like it was interesting. I'm really curious to see where they go. I mean, they're young. They're like 12 and younger. So, I mean, but I'm really curious to see where we go as a generation, or as a country, with that generation of them coming up, knowing that they're hyper aware of the fact that, things were screwed up, and like, we got to make things better.
Yeah, no, I mean, annoyingly so. But that's how it has to be,
Got to swing that pendulum back, man.
Yeah, definitely. And look, my mom was extremely supportive, and she, she was supportive of me acting and making movies and all sorts of stuff. And but there was a realism too of them. They grew up after the Depression, and they grew up, during World War II, and and after World War II. It was a very, they grew up having to like conserve things, and it's like and be patriotic, with World War II. I mean, they're a very patriotic generation. It's like,
of course they are. Yeah,
they're still of like, believe your government, trust in your government, trust in the, it's
they're not going to do anything wrong. Yeah, to a certain degree. But I Nixon changed all that. JFK dying changed all that.
Sure,
Like, Vietnam changed all that. It was
Summer of Love, you know.
It was a huge...
The civil rights movement, the Stonewall. You know, it's like all these events that were happening concurrently were unavoidable, and you couldn't ignore them.
Right, but I guess what I'm trying to get at is that I feel like there's a lot of baby boomers now that don't trust the government because of that stuff that happened and
sure,
and how the government lied and like.
Well, the JFK conspiracy set off a lot of people in a really bad direction.
Yeah, well, but it's not even Nixon and Watergate. Like, it totally, I mean, I don't know. I want to say that I think that that's the reason now that, like, we have these extreme conservatives, but, like, the fact is that they were able to build off of the sentiment that the government doesn't work.
Sure. I think, honestly, though, I think the extreme conservative comes from a place of white fragility.
Yes, 100%.
You know, where rights are being taken away because other people are getting rights.
You know, the poor white people are the victims.
It's, you know, it's distrust in, you know, I mean, I don't know. We've become so tribal these days. It never used to be. I mean, my great uncle was Speaker of the House. Yeah. Sam Rayburn.
And,
you know,
Texas.
From Texas. I got to visit his museum when they found out I was his great nephew.
Is that it's in Texas somewhere? Mm-hmm. In Austin?
No, I've never been to Austin. The only place I've never been to Texas is the one place that's like that I'd probably enjoy.
For you to go, yeah.
But they were so cool at his museum, and they treated me. I was like the one time I got like treated like royalty. I think I'm his only last male living relative. Yeah. But they took me to like the secret places in the museum where all of his bondage gear was. No, where he. But the cool thing was they had this picture from his funeral, and my dad was one of the pallbearers.
Oh, wow.
And they didn't just Xerox it; they made an actual print of the picture and sent it to me.
Oh, wow.
You know, without me even asking, like a few months later.
That's crazy.
It was so nice. It was really
good.
You
know, they're very much about heritage.
But the point is, they used to get stuff done back then. You know what I mean? He had a bar in the State House where the work got done. Seriously, there was a room up in like the third floor or whatever, and they would bring the Dems and the Repubs, and that's where they would figure it all out.
Back in the day when they would actually work together, and it wasn't just you do my thing or we're done.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I don't know. It was a lot. It's just strange that we have come so far in so many ways, and yet not in so many other ways, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, we have to celebrate the progress we've made. I know people say that the progress isn't as quick enough or isn't fast enough, whatever, but we've made a lot of progress that we need to, you know, we're not done, but it's okay to celebrate the progress.
Of course.
You know,
I mean, you know, like gay marriage is legal. Like that's a big thing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's a good deal. And we got to go much further.
Yeah.
We got to go past that.
The Army is going to be doing gender reassignment surgeries.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
last year there was a trans man in the Army, and now the Army will pay for. I mean, it's like that's how it. You know, that's how quickly things are changing, and I think the whiplash of it is like, you know, that causes a lot of people.
Oh yeah, you dig your heels
to lose their mind
and want to not, and then it just becomes about keywords and it's just feelings and.
Well, back in the day, you know, you had your newspaper in the morning and in the evening, and then you had your local news.
Yeah,
you know,
your evening news,
and then that's it. We didn't have all of this yammering that's going on.
Not a 24-hour news cycle. You know, what did they do?
And then not news that was catered to exactly what your belief was.
How did anybody live? I don't understand.
They didn't. We all died. There was an extinction level event.
Now here we are. Yeah.
No, it's just so strange to see, because Gen X is coming into power kind of now. You know, we're at that age of the 50. You know, we're in the 50s and 40s.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're becoming the adults.
Yeah. You're eventually going to take the reins.
No, it'll skip us because we don't
want it. No, it won't. There will definitely be some Gen Xers in there. Oh, yeah.
Maybe.
It'll be the good ones, though. It'll be the ones that really should be doing it and not just the ones that are taking advantage.
Well, let's hope so. But it's just weird because I don't, you know, it just doesn't. I just still feel like a kid, you know what I mean? And it just seems so weird to be the adult. And I think a lot of it, too, is because, I never got married or had kids. I wonder why after.
Oh, I know why, Jim.
No, because
I don't know why.
I'm unlovable.
Wow, that is so true. Jesus, I can't even begin to say how unlovable you are.
No, but I mean, I think having my dad die at an early age made me wary of having children.
Yeah.
I don't want to, I was always, having that also that, sort of Damocles over my head thinking that I was going to die at a young age.
Right.
It ain't fair to have, it's all selfish BS for me to not do any of that stuff. It's just really funny when we
I know. But at the same time, it's not. Like, I personally am never going to have kids, but, because I know I'm a selfish person. Mm-hmm. I want to do things I want to do.
Yeah.
And adding in that third party, not going to do it for me.
No, but I think the sad thing kind of is you'd be a good dad. I think I'd be a good dad.
Probably.
And I think a lot of good dads aren't going to be dads because they just,
Well, that's why, I got my brother, and he's got great kids.
Yeah.
He's a good dad.
The 70s had a lot of weird sex stuff.
What kind of weird sex stuff, Jim? What kind of weird sex
so,
stuff?
here we go. We're coming off of the summer of love. People were like, all the teens are doing it in the dirt, at Woodstock. And the Monterey Pop Festival. And,
muddy.
So these 60s flower kids, they're growing up a bit. They're getting married, but they still got their freak. They're not ready to let that go. So it gave way to this weird suburban sex culture where, you'd have these parties where people would come and they'd put their keys in a bowl. And then at the end of the night, the wives would pick out the keys, and whoever car they got, that's who they'd go home with.
Do you know of anybody that actually attended a key party?
I can't say to them. But because that person picked their own keys.
Oh, no. That's sad. Or is it? I don't know.
I don't know. It just seems weird. It seems like it would be... the way I see... I mean, they did portray that in that movie, The Ice Storm.
Yeah.
It's been portrayed in films. And
was that Ang Lee?
Yes.
Ang Lee.
Yeah. I would think that the peer pressure, it would just be kind of creepy. They're probably smoking a little dope,
What?
One of the guys
got
some grass off of his teenage stepson.
And it would be the worst grass
ever.
Yeah,
but they'd smoke that grass and they'd drink their J&Bs and have a little have some cheese fondue and maybe a little chocolate fondue for dessert.
So key party. Mm-hmm. They hang out. They get to know each other. Nobody knows who they're going home with till the end, right?
Right.
So you take the keys, and suddenly you're going home with Bill.
Sure.
You go home with Bill.
Yeah.
You have sex with Bill.
Okay.
Does he then drive you home?
Well, usually they're in the same neighborhood. So it's just like... Which makes it even worse.
They do the walk of shame.
Yes, because, let's say you do the key party in your neighborhood, and you do bring Bill home. And
no, you go to Bill's house.
Or you go to Bill's house, and, Bill's wife is with, Ronnie, and Ronnie's got a bigger wiener. And then it's like, you got to, see everybody at the block party.
Wiener. Okay.
And it's just got to be really awkward. It's like, anytime you have one of those weird, druggy, sexy nights, you never want to see those people again.
But that's my thought is that I guess I just don't understand key parties to the point of, if you're going to do that stuff, then just be like, hey, there's a room over there. Just go fuck in the room.
It's the anticipation, baby. It's all part of the ritual. Ugh. You don't have any sort of imagination.
I'd rather be at the friend's house and have sex with somebody there and then leave.
That's an affair.
And then go home.
That's called an affair.
No, it's at a party. It's at a party where everybody's watching. So it's not an affair.
So you don't want to go to a key party. You want to go to a party where everybody's watching you have sex.
I want to go to a watch me orgy. That's.
Well, I'm
just kidding. I don't want to do that. But I've been to a couple of those, and not watch me, but a couple of those in LA here. It's been weird.
Sure. But you didn't do it with your wife, and your kids are at home with the babysitter.
Yeah. No. I mean,
I just remember there were always these weird little adventures that would happen at the house that were very confusing to a young child.
This is interesting now.
There was a time where, and I'm pretty, okay. There was a time where I think my mom and my stepdad smoked some weed. And my stepdad was in the shower the entire time thinking he was going to die.
Oh,
And my
I've
mom
been there. I've been there.
pulled this giant sunflower out of the ground and was laughing hysterically and, walked into where Ray was and was like, I got you a flower, and thought it was the funniest thing in the world. And, like, I kind of remember this stuff. There was, like, this weird... Like, there was this one time when there was this explosion across the street, and the old man brought a guy in that was, like, burnt or something.
What?
Yeah, there was all this weird stuff.
This is some random explosion across the street?
Something, yeah. And there's, like, all these weird flashes. Like, you remember when you were a little kid, and you always had to know what was going on, right? Your parents had friends over, and you're, like, in your jammies at the top of the stairs, trying to sneak a peek. They know you're there, they're there, and then they're finally like, go to bed, Adam, and you're like, whoa, and you run to bed. but you always want to see, what are those adults doing? Drinking, mostly. My upbringing at all. My parents hung out with their friends Jerry and Jan, and they would just literally play cards. And that was it. Well, my parents didn't drink when I was growing up. So. When we moved to Escondido, things got different. But when we were in San Diego and La Jolla, it just seemed like it was, because it was like mid-70s.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I just think about it, like the many different lives.
Well, of course.
I mean, lead.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing, is that it's not, I mean, once you have kids, you don't have to, your life doesn't have to be over. You can still do stuff. You can still, have a good time. You can still be your own person.
Well, parenting was really different in the 70s because you would just, in the morning, be like, especially if it was the summer.
Yeah.
You open the door, kid leaves.
Yeah,
gone
they
all
go
day.
outside. It's daylight. Go outside.
Go to the door. Jam! Come home. Oh, it's my mom's calling. It's time for dinner.
Gotta go home. Yeah.
They didn't know what we did. Nobody asked any questions. Nobody told any tales,
Yeah.
But all we were doing was building forts.
As long as I was home by dinner, that's all my parents cared about.
Yeah. I mean, like so many kids just broke their arms and shit. And we'd have to like carry them to their parents' house.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just like, but it was no panics or anything. Just like, no ambulance. It was just like, okay.
That's my in sixth grade when I went to a public school. I ended up getting into, of course, because I was the weird Catholic kid. Like, got into a couple fights and went to some kid's house and we got into a fight and. There were like 20 kids watching, and it was just ridiculous. And then I ran home, and I got home with like 10 minutes to spare, and sat down at the dinner table, and I was like, hey, Dad, got into a fight. And he was like, and you made it home on time. I was like, yep.
Yes. No, we were free-range children, and, I don't know. I think there's a good balance between free-range kids and helicopter parenting, I think.
Yeah.
I think maybe we had a little too much freedom, but then again, I don't know, man. I think we were able to be alone. You know what I mean? We were able to do our own thing.
Well, it fomented independence. If like you're out and like you don't have a parental figure around, then it's like you got to figure out how to fix this.
Well, sure, but also both parents work, so you come home from school, you make your own snack, you do your homework, you're responsible for your own time and your own thing, and it's
you're the latchkey kid.
You got to get your crap done, before somebody gets home, my folks went out to dinner all the time, and then I got sick of going to dinner with them because they just sit there and talk shop. There's nothing more boring for a 7-year-old than hearing about, mortgage prices and, remodels and whatever, so they stopped, I think probably about 8, maybe I stopped having a babysitter. I just took care of myself. And they'd bring me home something from Carl's Jr. and I'd plop in front of Happy Days and, there you go.
Oh, the old babysitter. Yeah. I get it. I mean, they're busy people. They were busy people. They had to take care of the business. It was crazy, some of the stuff that I was. I remember like having some neighborhood kids that were just like, yeah, like we had to ride like a bike like a mile this way, and there's like this dirt track, and you'd go ride on this dirt track, and it was like, no, it was actually the kids that were 3 years older than you, who, granted, they were only 3 years older, but they looked like they were like 40.
Yeah, sure.
It was
exactly.
It was like, no, there's theirs, and they would just throw rocks at you until you left.
Right.
And like,
yeah, there were turf wars.
yeah, it was crazy.
You just do jumps, and we just like find these jumps, and we just take our bikes and jump off cliffs into like dirt dunes, and somebody to eventually we'd do it until somebody got hurt. And we'd have to take them back to some place. That was basically it. It was like we'll do something stupid, until somebody got hurt, and then we'll go back the next day and do it again.
Come back because that kid's not with you because he's hurt.
We're dead. We lost a lot of kids.
Wow, wow, that was the Escondido.
It was the 70s, baby. Deaths. There's a lot of the mortality rate.
Yeah,
big.
if you could avoid the serial killers,
oh man,
the sand dunes would get you.
We did though. That was creepy.
Yeah, I don't even. Yeah.
That we had real boogeymen in the 70s. We had real boogeymen.
Yeah.
And I remember the Night Stalker. He started making his way down to San Diego, and at school it would be like, "Oh, he's coming to get you. The Night Stalker's coming to get you. He's going to go in there and he's going to strangle you, or he's going to kill your mom," and then Ted Bundy. "Oh, Ted Bundy's going to get you." It's just like we had all these crazy serial killers,
Yeah. In the early 80s, we had Johnny Gosh. That was the big thing.
Right.
The child kidnapping. Yeah, that was the big thing. Because he was from Des Moines. And actually, Eugene Martin was another kid that either got, quote-unquote, kidnapped or ran away. We don't really know.
Well, this is back when they didn't do anything about it. They didn't think there was child abduction.
He was the first kid on a milk carton.
Right. Well, he was when they started taking it seriously. They changed the laws.
Yeah, because it was. But I remember that because he was a couple years older than me, and then he was a newspaper carrier, and I started giving out the Sunday paper, and it was like.
So you killed him for his job?
No,
is that what you're saying? Yeah. You murdered him for his job. We solved the Johnny Gosh.
They were so specific about like, here's if you see anybody, you knock on doors until somebody answers. Yeah. And like it was so crazy, and I was like, I'm like 12, going like, should I really be doing this right now?
Yeah, no, it's scary, and that was the beginning of like Stranger Danger, and kids getting thrown into vans, and not the beginning of it, but the beginning of the realization that it happens. Because
it was much more publicized.
There was no child abductions. I mean, there were, but nobody believed it. You know what I mean? It was always like, well, your kid probably ran away.
Yeah. It was always kids.
Well, he's 4. Well, he probably ran away to the circus.
Well, that feeds into the myth, the illusion that this is not the world we live in. There's no bad guys like that.
That's the thing, is that part of the 70s destroyed that myth of, the perfect little suburban life. Yeah. You don't lock your doors, and you don't, your neighbors just come in and grab the sugar if they need it. But it's like, there always were predators. It's just that
they just got more public.
Yeah, well, yes, and they had more press.
Yeah.
And I think that also fueled. It was a self-feeding monster, which is the press made it more. It probably brought out more killers.
Right.
They're looking for press. You know what I mean?
Right,
it's like,
right.
Yeah. And it sold papers, man. Like
right.
the Zodiac, with his, with those, what do you call it? Ciphers,
Ciphers, yeah.
It's like, it's just fascinating. I don't want to say like, the serial killers back then had class. No, but they did have there was like something about. There was always some weird little hook, There was like, Bundy was the co-ed killer. He was the handsome guy that,
because it sold papers.
Exactly.
People watch.
And John Wayne Gacy was the killer clown.
He was a clown. He hung out with kids, but then he murdered them.
Well, he hired them and murdered them. Yeah.
Right.
Jeffrey Dahmer, he was more 80s or 90s, but, he was still the cannibal killer. They all had these, they were like super villains. You know what I mean? They were like what we had is like these, they were the OG boogeymen. It was like I remember it was like we just fueled that as kids back then. Like we had this vacant lot at the end of our our street, and we were all like, yeah, well, Bigfoot lives there, and we all believed it, and we would be like, yeah, Bigfoot's in there, and let's go find him. And
in Escondido.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. Because Bigfoot was huge back then. That was back when, like, they had the In Search of Bigfoot movies and and all that footage of the,
Still,
Bigfoot.
I want to see a movie where Bigfoot lives in Escondido.
It's called Harry and the Hendersons. But,
oh my God, it is.
yeah, but it was based on my childhood. No, but we literally,
Was your stepdad John Lithgow?
I wish. No, he was the Bigfoot. No, but yeah, I mean, we would make up that kind of crap because it was like, it was more exciting.
Yeah.
To live with like the danger, it's like it's the same reason why like monster movies and everything, and and I think especially for me, I always was macabre because of being so aware of death and whatever that I anything that was like scary or whatever, I was just totally drawn to it, or and it was like a way for us to be like tough kids. Like I'm gonna be like, well, I'm gonna go in alone. If I don't come back, Mary, Bigfoot got me.
It's like going to the Neibold house and
take my ding dongs. Hold on to my ding dongs for me. A hostess treats, baby.
Okay, all right.
But that's how it was, You go out, you dig for it, you look for Bigfoot.
You really were a fat kid, weren't you?
I fluctuated. No, but we were outside all the time.
And your happy days and your
but I also swam and ran and played outside.
I wasn't technically the fat kid. I just was the one that was a little huskier than everybody else.
Yeah, I fluctuated. It was always a thing.
I'm still fluctuating all the time.
Yeah,
like that's not going to end anytime soon. Until finally my body goes, hey, guess what? Not going to lose anything anymore. Thanks.
I just don't want to get one of those like egg bellies, where like your belt cuts the middle. You got that big old. It's like you have an egg as a body, in the belly, and your belt's the middle of the egg.
That was like old school, because that's where the waist should be, was up above the belly button. You wear it very high because that's where it's supposed to be worn, and it's comfortable because it's not. Your belly is not cutting in.
I just don't understand how you get that barrel belly. You don't see that on younger people.
I had a science teacher in high school that had the biggest beer belly I've ever seen. He was a skinny man.
Wow.
Skinny man. He looked like he was like 8 months pregnant. Like, it was so bizarre.
He probably had a problem.
He probably did. He probably did. I don't know. That was the same class where we watched or that same year where I watched a girl lose an eye by a penny because someone flicked it and it hit her right in the eye. She literally lost her eye.
That's Iowa for you.
Woo! Yeah, that was fun. He didn't even get suspended for that.
Really?
The kid didn't. Nothing.
Oh, it was an accident.
Yeah. Well, it really wasn't. He was an asshole. But anyway, I think he's dead now. So.
Oh, there you go. Good for him. He deserved it.
Sorry. That just went down a weird rabbit hole. Sorry.
What's so crazy is that, all the panic and everybody being so scared of the serial killers and the cults and stuff of the 70s, that led to the satanic panic of the 80s.
Right.
Which was, man.
Insane.
Well, insane and also just so destructive. To so many lives.
Yeah. It was, yes.
You had the beginnings of, we had a decade of serial killers and cults and child abductions were becoming, just like this, Johnny Gosh, it's like you have all of these things coming to light that probably had been happening before, but had never really been in the mainstream or on the news, right? Yeah. And that married with the fact that it's the beginning of like preschool. It's the beginning of daycare in the 80s. There wasn't really daycare before then. People don't realize. And so,
right.
People were had a lot of anxiety about dropping their kids off with strangers.
Yeah.
And so that's what led to this satanic panic, is that it was this distrust of all of these preschools, plus these kids, coming out with the most outlandishly crazy things. They're being led on by the whole
kids
thing was
say the darndest things.
But it'd be like, and then the teacher came in and she ate the baby, and then she did. Well,
I'm sorry, Timmy. She ate the baby.
Yeah, she ate the baby.
Ate it,
and then opened her mouth, and I saw the baby.
Oh.
I saw the baby.
It was in her mouth.
Right, and they're like, "Oh, okay." But it was literally like that. It was like they would.
I'm sorry. Why was there a panic then? That doesn't make any sense.
because they wanted to close this shit down.
Yeah,
they wanted to end it. They wanted to get the kids back with the family. It's the same thing with like the Republicans now that are like, they're against, equal pay for women because they want women to stay home with the kids. It's all about subjugating women. I mean, it's the fear. It's fear. It's fear of,
Fear grew in the 70s.
Oh my God! And it blossomed in the 80s, and then it, and then it flowered in the 90s.
Took a good name in the 90s.
Yeah, it's crazy. But if you look at the trajectory. It's completely. There's like a path to it. You know what I mean? It's like
totally.
I'm fascinated by mass hysteria. I'm fascinated by that kind of groupthink that happens. And it's like all the way up to today. With this big lie crap. It's like this whole groupthink mentality where everybody loses their collective mind.
Yeah.
And and lives are destroyed. I mean, if you look, a lot of it was like Donahue and and all of these daytime talk shows that just pushed the satanic panic narrative.
Oh yeah,
and they had the Satanists on, and they had these people on, and it was just so exploitative and so. It was all about just getting ratings.
It's good TV.
Sure, but it was all just phony.
Oh, of course it was. I mean, it's not. None of it was real, and it.
There's never been. I mean, and okay, we're back to it. We're back to it with QAnon and this whole satanic pedophile ring. It's the same damn thing. It's just rebranded and repackaged. As now it's the Democrats in a basement. In
a pizza parlor.
In a pizza parlor that doesn't have a basement. Well, there's all these tunnels. These child trafficking tunnels under the ground too. Sure. But it's like it's the same inane. They're scaring babies to make them super scared, and then they take their adrenochrome and then drink it to keep them young, and it's like
what?
That's the QAnon conspiracy is that
they're scaring babies to take their.
There's this
fear serum.
There's this. I wish I remember. It's this. There's this file.
I'm sorry, this is fascinating.
There's this file called like Fluberflap.
Okay.
And it's not that, but it's
definitely not Fluberflap.
But it's stupid as Fluberflap. It might as well be Fluberflap. But this file Fluberflap that they found on Anthony Weiner's wife's computer. The file is a video clip of her and Hillary Clinton.
She was a high-ranking Democrat.
She worked for Clinton. Party. She was a Clinton advisor, and she. So there's this film of her and Clinton. Clinton cuts off this little girl's face and puts it on her own face to scare the children.
Hillary does it.
Hillary does it. Okay. To scare the children because the fear percolates the adrenochrome and makes it.
It makes you live forever?
I don't know. Maybe. I'm not sure exactly. I think it keeps you young. I don't know. It doesn't seem to be working if Hillary Clinton's taking it and Bill Clinton.
Is that what happened to Mitch McConnell's hand with the blackness?
Yes. Yeah.
He wasn't getting enough fear.
Somebody started destroying his Horcruxes, I think. No, but that's...
But have you seen this video of Hillary Clinton cutting off...
No, because it doesn't exist.
Oh, it's not real.
Fluberflap or whatever it is. Yes. But it is... It is, Kat. She's like shocked too.
I know.
But this is the kind of stuff that people are saying is true. This is like de rigueur of QAnon. This is like.
But they had to. That was the whole thing. They had to make up something crazy because the whole like Trump P tape.
Right. But
I mean, they had to make up something that was even more ridiculous.
But this
because then you don't believe it.
Yeah. Well, look. I mean,
that's pretty brilliant, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because if you don't take that seriously, which obviously you don't, no one's going to... Hillary Clinton did not cut off the face of a child and put it on her own face to scare a child.
You don't know.
But that's going to make you then not believe the fact that Donald Trump peed on a bunch of Russian prostitutes in Barack Obama's bed that he slept in.
Well, the actual story is that he paid the prostitutes to pee on the bed that Clinton... that Barack Obama slept on. He didn't do the peeing. He just watched them pee.
I am so sorry.
Yeah. Look, let's make sure it's accurate. I don't want to cross any streams.
No. So to speak. Oh my God. Can they cross streams? Is that a thing?
Yes. Sexist.
It's like Ghostbusters. You don't cross the streams, man.
No, you don't. But But yeah, I think, it's the same kind of thing. You go from Satanic Panic to QAnon. Everybody's looking for a boogeyman. And and everybody's looking for but that's, I guess my point is, in the 70s, the boogeymen were boogeymen. In the 70s, the boogeymen were serial killers and child abductors.
More clear of who was the bad guys.
In the 80s, the 80s, the boogeymen were the Satanists, but the Satanists were your neighbors, right? That was the beginning of Adam is a Satanist. He eats children's feet.
They're tasty with
I didn't mean to out you, by the way.
Okay. Dip them in chocolate.
And then we've come to, the entire Democratic Party and the entire left in Hollywood are all a bunch of child-eating monsters.
That's not far off. I mean,
no, it's really not.
I'm kidding. That's
metaphorically, but seriously, I mean, I think
they're not literally child-eating monsters.
But that's how it's grown. That's where we are, right?
No, it's true. It's true, and it all really stems from the 70s, and the interesting fact that maybe perhaps the media was making these things more public, hiding the real villains. Like Nixon, which granted, I mean, obviously he was outed and all that stuff.
Yeah, they weren't hiding Nixon.
No, but I'm saying is that he wasn't the only one doing illegal shit.
No.
I mean, I'm sure there's many people in the government that have done much worse.
Yeah.
But we don't pay attention to it because we're paying attention to John Wayne Gacy and his clown child killing.
Right. Yes. No, because it sells papers. Sensationalism always does. I mean, if it bleeds, it leads. Has been around ever since the 40s. It's not.
Hearst wouldn't have literally started a war.
Right. I mean, yellow journalism, all that shit. That sells papers. A expose on John Wayne Gacy. Pulling 15 boys out of the crawl space of his house is a lot more interesting than the Pentagon Papers and the complexity of that. We don't have an enemy right now. We don't have Al Qaeda. We don't have
an external boogeyman.
We don't have the Cold War. The thing that's most dangerous right now is domestic terrorism.
They tried to make the Islamic terrorist the boogeyman, and that didn't really fly.
No, it's right-wing terrorism. And when the biggest threat is coming from inside your house,
Yeah, what do you do?
Exactly. And
you call your stepdad.
You do, and he brings his guns. I'm always like, how did we get here, right?
No, 100%.
It is insane where we are.
That's what I found fascinating about this series is that we're able to relate back to the things that we love or the things that scared us and find out why we're here now.
Yeah, it started with your stepdad, and it ends with QAnon.
Oh, my gosh.
Because your stepdad's a member of QAnon. I think getting back to what we were talking about earlier about being a surface generation or everything, if everything looks good, everything is good.
Yeah, because it's easy when your neighbors don't come over unless they're invited or they knock. They don't just come in. They don't it's easy to hide those things.
As long as you're not yelling, it's like keep it down because the neighbors will hear. I mean, don't you dare have an argument in the front yard.
Oh no,
don't you dare. And but also everybody played along back then too.
Yeah.
The kids played along, and then because of divorce, let's bring it back to that. A lot of ways, kids acted out. They didn't have as much discipline, or they didn't have that. That family unit, that security. Let's be honest.
I mean,
divorce is super scary. It's like your parents are your gods.
When you're a kid, you need structure. You need, and they're just it isn't there. I mean, and it wasn't that way for everybody. I mean, there were definitely divorced parents that took care of that and thought about that, but most people just didn't.
No, but you can't. There's things you can't help. My father dying on my 3rd birthday.
Yeah.
Messed me up.
Why did you kill him?
Because look. I asked for a Fisher Price.
My birthday.
I asked for a Fisher Price, mower. With those
those little, yeah.
Got me an off-brand.
Oh no.
Swisher Swice.
Was it Swisher Swice?
And I just beat him to death with it because I was like, this is not what I asked for.
Wow. I'm really sorry. That was dark and way too soon.
Yeah, it was real dark. Yeah, it was right too soon. It was only 40-something years.
Ago. Yeah.
But no, seriously, you don't realize because kids. We didn't think about it back then. There wasn't really a lot of child psychology back then. You didn't get your kid to a child therapist to deal with the problems. There wasn't safe spaces or any of this. And not that I'm mocking that or anything, but but there wasn't it was just get up, dust yourself off, and get to it, baby.
Yeah,
this is life. You
Which,
know,
I mean,
life isn't gonna, which is a realistic way to look at
yeah,
it. I mean,
I think that's still the case for a lot of people. It's just a very different world.
Sure.
I mean, it's much easier to be scared because it's just so much more information.
I think there's more sensitivity these days to kids. You know?
Yeah.
I think, I definitely know that my peers that are parents are for the most part, better parents than their parents.
Yep.
And not to say that our parents were bad parents. They just, you either evolve or you don't. It's like you either learn from the horrible things and you do the opposite, or you carry on the cycle. And it's I think more people are given the tools to stop the cycle. Now,
Agreed.
Right?
I think that's good. Yeah, it's a good way to put
I don't
it.
think that our parents had the tools to stop it. I don't think they had
No, definitely not.
the wherewithal. I mean, like I said, like we were talking about, they came from these stoic World War II, Depression era. You just, we got to survive parents. And they were,
Yeah, I mean, seriously, like, you're raising your kid, and it's like, nothing I do can be as bad as the thing I just did over in Germany. Like, it's like I just stopped this whole bad thing. So, like,
I think also because of the fact that things were tight back then because of depression. I think the parents, they did want to give their kids more than what they had. Sure. But I think it wasn't. They weren't giving them emotionally more. They were giving them materialistically more.
Yes.
Which was great. We loved our bikes, and we loved our
Fisher Price mowers.
Yeah, and our Planet of the Apes treehouse playsets.
Yeah.
But that was not a substitute for understanding or whatever. But it's also not their fault. It's like they did the best they could. And they did a good job. I mean, I think our generation turned out okay.
Your mom did pretty good. I mean,
my mom's great. Your parents are great. They're not perfect. Nobody's perfect.
I think they did a pretty good job. I mean, I like who I am now. So I mean,
I like who you are.
Thanks.
Now,
not 20 minutes ago when I was making that awful joke.
No, I hated you then. I hated you. But that's the thing. I think as you get older, you start to look at your parents as human beings, hopefully, and not as gods or these mythic creatures. And you see their humanity, and you can be like, okay, well, yeah, my mom was completely overwhelmed back then, so she did that, or my dad or my stepdad, lost his job or blah blah blah. So it's there's reasons behind it. Doesn't excuse bad behavior.
No.
But it also makes it easy to come to peace with it, because you don't have to take it personally, because they're not smacking you around because they hate you. They're smacking you around because they love you, and that's what they were taught.
My dad was actually on an aircraft carrier during Vietnam when he met my mother. They were pen pals, and
I was going to say, what was she doing?
I know she was not on the ship, but when he came back, he wanted to start a family, so he got a job because he had to, and I really don't think that him and I really connected, like you were saying about being like looking at him as a person, like rather than just dad, until he was forced to retire and start his own business, and then it was like he blossomed, and it was like, oh my God, seeing him as a person rather than as my dad who hates working this construction crap.
Somebody who's interested in their own life becomes interesting.
Yeah,
and when a parent is just a job, and a cook and a chauffeur.
Which unfortunately is what a lot of stepdads looked at it as.
Yes.
It was like, oh, well, I guess I got to raise this 7-year-old now.
Well, yeah. And, a whole bunch of, you're not my dad.
All I wanted to do was get with your mom. Now I got to deal with you.
Yeah, it's a lot of responsibility, little snot-nosed kids, and a lot of them weren't up for it.
No, they should not. There's a reason they didn't have kids.
There's a reason why there was a lot of guys going out for cigarettes and just not coming back.
He'll come back. He'll be back.
Oh, he'll be back.
It's only been 35 years. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. But or moms, moms
can
go out for cigarettes too and not come back. Let's be fair.
Although I think more moms. This is gonna get really dark, but I think more moms had a tendency just to kill their children and then die.
Wow.
Yeah, that happened
Really?
a lot. That happened a lot more than I think than them just leaving their families. You just don't hear about it as often of them just leaving because the maternal aspect of the kids and stuff. Although it did happen, of course.
Yeah, I mean a lot of time. I mean, I'm going to hazard a guess that more moms left their families than murdered their families in the 70s.
I'm going to disagree.
Okay. We're going to have to find the
Agree
statistics
to
on
disagree on that one.
because that's like Satan. I mean,
This is what the news told me, Jim.
killer moms. I could just see the Jerry Springer killer moms.
Killer moms. I would like to hope that mothers have more stronger maternal instincts.
I would like to hope that mothers would have the instinct to murder their children rather than
I'm just saying it's not
leave them.
leave at all. Well,
70s moms just. I got to tell you before we go. I'm going to tell
Yeah.
you a really fun story about my mom
okay.
and the 70s
Yeah.
and my sister.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if you remember, all you youngins, you oldens, but there used to be this Hostess commercial where this mom would come out with this tray with like Twinkies and ding dongs and fruit pies, and she'd be like, "Hostess, anyone?" And the kids would be like, "Oh, mom," and they'd run over and grab the thing. And my sister and I forced our mother to go get ding dongs, Twinkies, and pies, and put them on a tray and
recreate the.
Yeah, and it was great too because in the commercial she walks through this door and we had like a door in the kitchen, and she did the whole damn thing. She walked through with the Hostess, anyone? And we were just like, "Oh, mom!" And it was just hilarious. And I mean that to me is just the epitome of who my mom is. Just the greatest. It was just like, I mean. That's
for her.
going the
Good
extra
for
mile.
her.
It was
That
so
is
much fun. I
going
mean,
the
that's just
extra mile.
playing along and being like, that's being game. And
I'm sure
it was
fun
really
for her.
fun. And my sister and I just got such a kick out of it. It was just
that's
so
funny. That's so funny.
So I wanted to, not all moms are killers. Some like to get their kids treats.
Wow, man, God, you act somehow like I said that moms killed their kids. I don't understand.
Oh.
Well, I think this was a successful venture into what it was like in the 70s.
Yeah. Confusing, rambling. It
God, it
didn't really have
was
a point.
like hanging out with a stepdad.
Just a drunken mess.
I did manage to finish my drink, so
I think we
I'm gonna
both
go,
did.
Go freshen up.
Well, yeah, that's a good time to say goodbye.
Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week with something a little more
Traditional.
But
we'll be back again with a little something, for the stepdads. Well, parenting was really different in the 70s.
We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming. Blossom, already in progress.